we're so scared of imperfection because it reveals there's parts of us that are not ideal by some external comparison or by some internal trigger or some past experience where we have that feeling. How do you now deal with your imperfections? Like, how do you feel about parts of you that are not perfect?
I'm okay with that. I actually think a lot of who I am are just a few things that are not perfect. Even down to my laugh. Sometimes I used to be insecure about my laugh, or, the fact that I'll always talk during a movie, or, I always do something minuscule. And I think little things like that make me happy because I feel like everybody else in the world. Recent, for example, very small example, but this Halloween, I was a banana, and I genuinely just like got the cheapest outfit, put it on, and roamed around Times Square with my friends and had the best time. And everyone kept sending me these memes because everybody else kind of went all out, and maybe I could have painted my face and done a little more, but everyone looked really sexy and fun. And literally I was a banana. That's basically sums up who I am to a T. And it was, that to me means that I don't have to be perfect all the time. I'd rather be that girl.
Yeah. And how does that apply to work? Like, how does that perfectionist mindset work in terms of like music or creation or acting? Like, because that's beautiful in your personal life. It sounds like there's this acceptance of, we can be more in flow. Mm-hmm. But then how does that apply to like writing or creating or building? Like,
well, I think I always say this in any session, there are no stupid questions. Mm-hmm. I always have to say that out loud because sometimes I genuinely will think, well, what does this mean? And how can I unpack this and create a song from this? Or how do I unpack this scene and do the best I can? There are mistakes that happen in the studio and on set that actually end up becoming a part of it. Me messing up a line actually ended up being funny and we kept it in the show. Or there's something I said in a lyric that was wrong and it ends up being the biggest hook that we've got. And I look for those moments. Yeah. I crave those moments.
That's a great example. I love all of those. Yeah. And it just, that's what feels like magic, right? Like it's when the imperfection can somehow become a part of the process where you're just like, wow, this actually feels like we got somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so I think when we start, I love that idea applied both personally and professionally, because I think even the parts of ourselves that we consider to be imperfect, the parts of ourselves that we consider to be broken, when you start seeing use in those, when you start seeing purpose in those,
I always say that there's blessing in the breaking. And every moment that you encounter in your life, even if it's just road rage, as simple as that, to maybe losing someone that you love. There is no perfect way to heal. There is no perfect way of dealing with something. It's more just, how am I going to be a better person? How am I going to make the best choice for myself so that I don't end up angry at that person on the highway, so that I don't end up ruining my day because of what someone did to me on the 405. I want to also say that, how can I turn something like losing someone I so dearly love into, well, how can I celebrate that person and the great things that they provided me or that they gave me? That takes a lot of work. So I don't say that lightly, but I try my hardest to do that. And I try to have my friends hold me accountable to reminding me, hey, let's try to flip this and try to turn it into something else.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I'm gathering from listening to you is that again, you're not saying I've arrived and this is how I think now. You're saying this is what I'm trying to practice. Like this is the approach that I'm mining in my own life. And
absolutely, this is practice. Every day is practice. I even said it last night at the premiere. I was saying, I don't have anything figured out. I am definitely not like, I'm sold, I'm good. It's more just, this is a continuation.
Yeah.
My story is not done, and I can't wait to find out what's going to happen next. And doesn't mean it's going to be easy, and sure there's going to be bumps that happen, but I'm going to learn how to live with them.
Yeah. As someone who's so committed to moving forward, what did it feel like going back to like your school and all these old places? I won't give away too many, but in the documentary you go and visit. You know,
I love that.
What does that do?
Well, going home is like, to me, it's untainted territory.
Right.
It is safe. It is simple and kind. Where I'm from, it is all about, you know, being together, loving each other. I go home and people are like, welcome home, Miss Gomez. They're not, you know, treating me any differently. And I enjoy visiting, you know, what made me who I am. And it always gives me a good sense of like, oh, I hope I can inspire people from where I'm from, because there's not a lot to do where I'm from, but I hope I can inspire just one person to do something bigger than that.
Yeah. Was there any particular place that you went back that almost gave you a special feeling, or something surprised you that you're like, oh, I didn't think this was going to be? Yeah.
Well, my snow cone place. I loved that place. I would go with my dad all the time and my cousin, and we would get the pickle snow cones with like, you know, grape in it. And it would just be so yummy and amazing. And it just, you know, brought me back to when it would be so hot in Texas, and I was with my family, and we would just stop there and sit outside for an hour and just talk. And it was just the best. Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, that's great to hear. I think there's always, I have this park in my hometown. Mm-hmm. It's called Broomfield Park. And it's still charming to me, even though I don't think if anyone else went there, they'd find it that charming. They'd be like, okay.
I know.
But when I go back, I know where I used to go and buy my ice cream from, and you know where the truck would be. And there's all these special moments that almost, but it sounds like, again, like it sounds like it's not like you're like, oh, I missed that. It's almost like that was a part of me, and it's a beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. But now I'm happy to be new. And even today when we were just walking over here and we were talking about just you finding places that fuel you.
Yeah.
And it seems like you've become open to saying, okay, it's okay that life is changing and transitioning.
Yeah.
And there's new places that feel more like home than old places.
I hate change. I really do. But I felt in the past year, which is it's pretty new.
Yeah.
I have really, really embraced the uncomfortableness of change. And I think it's because I get so exhausted of the same thing over and over again. And it scares me, but I did learn that my world can be bigger by being in a different.
Chiều đổ cơn mưa rào, em đi câu biệt ly còn chưa chào, quên môi hôn nắm say cái nắm tay, quên những ái ân lẫn giận hờn vừa trao. Em ơi tình đầu còn nhiều bỡ ngỡ, sao lại đành lỡ dở. Anh không biết sóng bắt đầu từ đâu, nhưng sóng quá lớn thì cuộc yêu vỡ bờ. Em ơi giấc mộng chưa thành đã dở dang, ngậm đắng nuốt cay nhìn trời mà thở than. Có lẽ nhân duyên sắp đặt sự lỡ làng, anh không bằng lòng nhưng đâu thì gỡ gạt. Vài kỷ niệm nhật ký vẫn ghi chép, vài đoạn phim còn lưu lại chi tiết. Đớn đau nào não nề như khi biết đoạn kết thê lương trên dòng sông ly biệt. Em ơi chờ đợi cả thanh xuân như cánh hoa 10 giờ, vẫn y nguyên cảnh vật nhưng chúng ta bây giờ đây thành người thừa. Chờ đợi cả thanh xuân như cánh hoa 10 giờ, vẫn y nguyên cảnh vật nhưng chúng ta bây giờ đây thành người thừa. Chẳng bất ngờ về chuyện đời hợp tan, chỉ chưa quen khi chơi với ngập tràn. Ai mang đi chân yêu rồi đập nát, để lại khúc nhạc buồn giữa trời đất âm vang. Người hữu tình dốc gan ruột vì nhau cho đến cuối cùng thì có được gì đâu. Đem cho đời phải chăng sự bi sầu, giữ cho riêng mình một con tim dì máu. Đối diện câu chuyện độc thoại nội tâm, nhiều thứ anh cần học lại nội dung. Giá em ở đây trách móc phải lỗi lầm thì cuộc đời anh các khóc lại đối xứng. Vì ai nên mang thanh xuân này vô định, kẻ hữu ý nhưng kẻ chỉ vô tình. Anh giống như Mr. Fantastic bởi vì hạnh phúc của anh biết vô hình. Em nên chờ đợi cả thanh xuân như cánh hoa 10 giờ, vẫn y nguyên cảnh vật nhưng chúng ta bây giờ đây thành người thừa. Chờ đợi cả thanh xuân như cánh hoa 10 giờ, vẫn y nguyên cảnh vật nhưng chúng ta bây giờ đây thành người thừa.
Destination. I work on my show Only Murders in the Building. It's in New York where I shoot, and I've never spent more than a week or two in New York, and I'm there for months. And just that alone was an uncomfortable, experience. But I loved it, and I loved the friendships I made and the knowledge that I was gaining, the people I was around, the park and walking, and just how precious life is. It's celebrated, there's culture. It just becomes addicting to want to put yourself in these situations and see what happens. So I will say in the past year, I've felt more comfortable with change, and I'm grateful for it. And I'm going to continue to do that. And I want that.
How did you get comfortable with that discomfort, I guess, in the first place? If you're someone who said, hated change, didn't like change, I guess obviously naturally work and everything like that. But was there something internally where you were like, okay, now I need to, because you've done uncomfortable things your whole life, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Like you've had to do so many difficult things, whether it's going on tour when you're young or transitioning careers. You've constantly done uncomfortable things.
Yeah, but I think I had always kind of returned to the same behavior and the same pattern.
Đưa cho anh cái bản đồ, đưa cho anh cuốn từ điển, đưa anh đi từ cấp cứu. Kiện em, đưa cho anh cái bản đồ, đưa cho anh cuốn từ điển, đưa anh đi từ cấp cứu. Mặc cuộc đời nó chẳng như ý em mong, anh nguyện vẫn luôn sẽ như lòng em muốn. Dẫu không cách nào mang nắng về đêm đông, cũng không hái được sao trên trời kia đem xuống. Nhưng sau này có thể đưa em giữ hộ tiền lương, sau này có thể làm việc nhà nếu em lười. Nhân gian thường nói không tồn tại thiên đường, chắc do họ chưa từng nhìn thấy lúc em cười. Ấm áp tỏa sáng tựa vầng thái dương, kéo anh chuyển động tinh tiến ở xung quanh. Hoài ngày hạnh phúc nhất mà anh âm thầm mãi ước, ngày ta đứng trước linh mục và cùng sánh vai lại. Thêm lần nữa tuyên bố nhẹ, em về khuyên bố mẹ kén rể đi anh đến tuyển ngay. Dù ít tin tưởng vào duyên số, nhưng nếu em cho số đảm bảo mình nên duyên đấy. Từ khi gặp em Google hết tác dụng, bởi em là tất cả những gì anh cần tìm. Giống một kho báu để ngăn người khác đụng tới, đối đầu thế giới anh cũng sẵn sàng cân tim. Ghét phải lặng im coi em như cô bạn, nỗi nhớ đong đầy bao giờ mới khô cạn. Khoảnh khắc bên nhau thời gian như ngừng trôi, vì em sở hữu sự hấp dẫn vô hạn. Yêu đơn phương cảm giác khó đọc tên, mọi thứ mù mịt giống như đứng trước bão. Mãi hy vọng chờ đợi ngóng trông đến ngày nụ hôn đó sẽ một lần được trao. Hương thơm ngọt ngào vương trên mái tóc em, gây nghiện cực mạnh anh ngày đêm ước ao. Quỳnh là loài hoa đẹp nhất trong bóng đêm, cuộc đời này u tối đang cần em bước vào. Đưa cho anh cái bản đồ vì anh sắp lạc bên trong đôi mắt kia. Hãy đưa cho anh cuốn từ điển vì cảm xúc này anh không thể cắt nghĩa. Chuẩn bị đưa anh đi từ cấp cứu vì anh sắp gục ngã dưới chân một nữ thần. Kiện em bóc lột khiến trái tim anh sao xuyến quanh năm chẳng được nghỉ kể cả ngày chủ nhật. Sắp phát in mà đâu dám lộ ra, bên bưu điện cũng không ship hộ quà. Họ chẳng thể nào chuyển hết toàn bộ nhung nhớ của anh định trao em, bởi tại vì to quá. Xuất hiện bất ngờ như cơn gió vườn qua, trái tim thẫn thờ tự dưng nó chợt lạ. Đối với cuộc yêu chỉ đủ chỗ cho hai người nên giá trị em giờ luôn là nhỏ hơn ba. Nhưng tất cả đều do anh nhút nhát, mà dù chinh phục em đúng mục tiêu đích thực, những câu tỏ tình lại như quốc ca Tây Ban Nha mãi không thể có được một lời chính thức. Anh ghen tức với những chiếc gối ôm được trong vòng tay cùng người mà mình thích. Anh khao khát chạm vào bờ môi hôn tới nỗi thú nuôi anh cũng xem là kình địch. Mẹ anh khuyến khích nên đi theo giấc mơ đời mình, vậy anh đi theo em suốt trọn kiếp này nhé. Quyến rũ đến mức bao tấc thơ lời bình cũng khó để lột tả cái vẻ đẹp gây mê. Em làm anh cứ loạn lên, lưu luyến lại càng thêm khi chót phần vương tình. Làm thao thức bâng khuâng giữa màn đêm, tâm trí hoài ngàn năm mãi say đắm hương quỳnh. Yêu đơn phương cảm giác khó đọc tên, mọi thứ mù mịt giống như đứng trước bão. Mãi hy vọng chờ đợi ngóng trông đến ngày nụ hôn đó sẽ một lần được trao. Hương thơm ngọt ngào vương trên mái tóc em, gây nghiện cực mạnh anh ngày đêm ước ao. Quỳnh là loài hoa đẹp nhất trong bóng đêm, cuộc đời này u tối đang cần em bước vào.
maybe, well, I'm nervous of going out because I don't want to be seen today, or I'm going to just stay in because I feel anxious, or I don't want to go out to that event because I don't want to get seen. I was finding myself just being terrified of the world, and that just isn't a way of living. And it's easy to go do a job because, well, I'm with a bunch of people. They help me look good. I do my job. I smile and I'm done. But taking spontaneous trips, or, getting out and going to the Balboa Park, which is a very simple park, just doing that kind of stuff is necessary. And I noticed that New York really helped me. It just really opened me up. The show is really great. And I think being around a bunch of New Yorkers, it does something to you, man. It's good.
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest changes in atmosphere that you talk about in the documentary is you go to Africa.
You're right.
And that's a big change.
Definitely.
Even if it's a shorter period of time, but you were still there for a considerable...
I was there for a week, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, that definitely wasn't the first time that I had taken trips. In the vein of wanting to go for a mission. And it was one of the most beautiful moments of the film for me. Because we actually thought we were just going to make a quick little video about, what we were there to do. And then we fell in love with the people, we fell in love with the story, and we started noticing that everywhere in the world, mental health is very, very real. It's very much something that's affecting everyone. And then you kind of realize that the world is... It's a small place sometimes, because you're all kind of walking through pain and you're all looking at things in a different way, but ultimately you all want to be happy. And I felt like they inspired me more than I could have done anything for them. It was a really beautiful trip, and yeah, it was one of my favorite moments of the film.
People don't always understand how mental health exists ever in the world. When you said that they're also experiencing mental health, what was their experience of it compared to what we would understand as our experience in the US? Or
yeah, well, I was talking to a woman named Betty, and she was, basically kind of the person touring or giving us the tour around the village and the schools, and she was lovely. But when we stopped to have a conversation, we just were sitting down, and she told me her story and how she was dealing with suicidal thoughts, and that how she went to a lake and sat there for 2 weeks contemplating. Not a day or an hour of moment. It was 2 weeks. And that was something that I felt floored by, because that's different. Obviously, we can have those thoughts, but she dismissed herself from everyone, and she had to find it with herself, when so many people don't need to walk through that alone, but she did. And she did it well, and she's proud of it. And now she is in an incredible school, and she's going to grow up to be the best influence for her village, for her sisters, for everyone that she's around. That's so special. And I'm just having those conversations with someone from across the world. It's mind-blowing. You don't really know what people are walking through until you do stop and have a conversation.
If you want even more videos just like this one, make sure you subscribe and click on the boxes over here. I'm also excited to let you know that you can now get my book, Think Like a Monk, from thinklikeamonkbook.com. Check below in the description to make sure you order today.